Amy was rummaging through old boxes in the attic when she stumbled upon a dusty, unmarked photo album. The attic had always been a treasure trove of forgotten memories, but this album was different. She wiped the dust off the cover and opened it. Inside, she found photographs of her husband, Mark, smiling warmly. But in each picture, he wasn't with her. A chill ran down her spine. The woman beside him was someone she didn't recognize. Her features were shadowed, and her face was always slightly turned away from the camera, almost as if she didn't want to be seen. Amy's heart raced. There was something unsettling about the pictures. Mark's affection toward this woman was undeniable, their connection tangible, even in the grainy images. But when had these photos been taken? And why had Mark never mentioned her? The further Amy flipped through the album, the more bizarre the photos became. The woman began appearing in places Amy recognized: her living room, her garden, even her bedroom. Yet, Amy had never seen this woman in her life. That evening, Amy confronted Mark. She held up the photo album, her voice shaky with confusion and anger. "Who is this woman?" she demanded. Mark looked at the album, and his face went pale. He didn't answer immediately, his eyes darting toward the door as if contemplating escape. "Where did you find that?" he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "In the attic." "Why do you look so scared?" Amy asked, her pulse quickening. Mark swallowed hard, then muttered something about an old fling before marriage. Someone he'd long forgotten. But Amy wasn't convinced. His unease, the way his hands trembled slightly, it didn't match his words. That night, Amy tossed and turned in bed, her mind swirling with doubts. She drifted into a restless sleep, only to be awakened by the sound of whispering. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but then she realized the whispers were coming from the attic. Terrified, she shook Mark awake, but he remained motionless. His eyes were wide open, yet he wasn't responding. As if someone had taken him away from her. The next day, Mark was gone. His car was still parked in the driveway, but there was no sign of him in the house. Amy called his phone repeatedly, but it went straight to voicemail. Hours passed, and her worry turned into panic. She searched every room, every corner, and eventually returned to the attic. As she stood in the dim light, she noticed something new. The photo album lay open on the floor, turned to a picture she hadn't seen before. In this photograph, Mark was standing with the woman, but this time, they weren't smiling. The woman's face, previously obscured, was now turned toward the camera. Amy's blood ran cold. It was her face, twisted into an unnatural, malevolent grin. Amy staggered back, her breath shallow. She hadn't taken this picture, and she had no memory of standing beside this stranger. Yet here she was, staring back at herself from the past. The whispering started again, louder now, more insistent. Amy could feel a presence behind her, the air thick with malice. She turned slowly, dreading what she would find. Standing at the entrance to the attic was the woman from the photographs, her features no longer obscured. Her eyes were dark, hollow pits, and her skin looked cracked, like aged porcelain. She didn't move, but Amy could feel her intense gaze. "Who are you?" Amy managed to croak, backing away slowly. The woman smiled, a slow, chilling smile that stretched unnaturally across her face. "He lied to you," she whispered, her voice like the rustling of dead leaves. "He was mine first. And now, he's with me." Amy's legs gave way, and she collapsed to the floor. The woman took a step forward, her figure blurring slightly, as if she wasn't entirely there. Amy's heart pounded in her chest, but her body refused to move. "You shouldn't have found the album," the woman hissed. "I'm always watching. I'm always with him." As the woman spoke, Amy's phone buzzed in her pocket. With trembling hands, she pulled it out. A text from Mark appeared on the screen. "I'm sorry." The whispering grew louder, the air heavy with an unseen force pressing down on Amy. The woman from the photographs loomed closer, her figure flickering in and out like a broken signal. The attic walls seemed to close in around her, the light dimming. Amy scrambled to her feet, bolting down the stairs. She locked herself in the bedroom, her hands shaking as she dialed Mark's number one last time. "Ring! Ring!" A voice answered, but it wasn't Mark's. It was the woman. "He belongs to me now," she said softly, almost lovingly. "And soon, you will too." Before Amy could react, her reflection in the bedroom mirror shifted. Her own face warped and twisted into the woman's, that same unnatural smile spreading across her lips. In the corner of her eye, Amy saw the photo album lying open on the bed, a new picture added to its pages. It was of her, standing next to Mark and the woman, her eyes hollow, her body lifeless. The last thing Amy heard before the lights went out was Mark's voice, faint but unmistakable, whispering, "Forgive me." And then there was only darkness. Like, follow, and share for more.